Tulsi Gabbard appeared, on Joe Rogan's podcast. And if you missed it, I didn't cover her initial video. I'm leaving the Democratic Party. Yeah, you weren't in it anyways. Shut up. For a while, she's been doing this grift that we see a lot of people do, where they pretend they're still on the left and then just only make right-wing talking points. And it's exhausting. But she posted a big thing, finally, admitting that she's no longer even attempting to appear on the left and she's not in the Democratic Party. And we'll look at that video in a second here, but I didn't originally cover it because her whole point of doing all this is just to kind of get a bunch of attention. And there wasn't valuable points to be made around it. Now there is, now that she appeared on Joe Rogan, because she talked about nuclear war. And that was one of the things that she cited in her video, saying why she can't associate with the Democratic Party anymore, because they're warmongers and pushing us towards a nuclear war. Now, we'll discuss why that's absurd in a second here, but first, take a look at the moment on Joe Rogan that I spoke of.
Are you going to run for any kind of office as an independent?
I'm not running for anything now. I am deeply, deeply concerned about this very real and imminent threat of nuclear war that no one is talking about, that no one is preparing the American people for, that people are kind of sitting ducks because of the decisions that our leaders have made. If I felt that there was a way that I could stop that and make a difference and impact that and pull us back from the brink, then yeah, I'd seriously consider running again.
So first off, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see her run. But second off, if you're really concerned about the threat of nuclear war and you're saying that people aren't properly highlighting that, then you should be more supportive of the Democratic Party right now, because the leader, Joe Biden, has been highlighting that threat and has been trying to do everything possible rhetorically to make clear to Putin, listen, nuclear action cannot be taken. Otherwise, we have devastating consequences on our horizon. And so this weird bait and switch she's been doing on this issue has confused me. But to give you context, here's her announcement video of why she's leaving the Democratic Party.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security
So she's just lying, okay?
State to go after their political opponents.
There's her alluding to Trump being wrongfully persecuted.
And above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war.
All right, we'll stop it there. But the elitist cabal controlling the Democratic Party, I don't know if there's any genuine element to that, or if it's just a way for her to fit into this niche, because you can make a whole lot of cash if you're the person who just couldn't take the left anymore and now you're going to go appear in right-wing media. Whereas people on the left really don't glorify that nearly as much. So there's not a huge market for people who leave the right to go to the left. It's like, great, you're welcome here, but you're not going to be a huge celebrity who gets a bunch of money and gigs because of that story. On the right, for some reason, we've seen so many of these instances. So right when she started being super critical of everything the left does, which is fair, you can criticize the left as much as you want, but then ignoring the horrible aspects of the right, she's getting brought on Tucker Carlson and all of these things, and pretending like, again, as you saw in that video, the biggest issue that's facing America is wokeness and not the massive threat to democracy, the assault on all these important institutions, and the rise of this weird religious nationalism that is dangerous. So I don't really care that much about her, but I do think you should be concerned with the threat of nuclear war that we're headed towards. But her using that as a critique of the Democratic kind of movement right now, when it's so clear, that's attempting to be avoided, is a little bit silly. And I hope to not see her run for any office. And then in this same interview, she talks about how she lost friends because of her appearances on Tucker Carlson. So I'll show you this and we'll discuss why I found it notable.
What about if you do right-wing talk shows? Like if you're a Democrat and you decide to go on Tucker Carlson, for instance, like what is that like?
It ranges from people kind of like giving you a cynical look, like whose side are you really on, to people just outright ending that friendship or that professional relationship because they don't want to have anything to do with you.
Have you experienced that?
Over and over.
Really?
Over and over. And it's not just Tucker Carlson. There's been this.
Okay. So over and over, she's experienced the loss or shunning from friends because of her appearances on right-wing media and the change in her political story. And if you aren't familiar with her, she ran for president as a Democrat and didn't get much support at all, but was pretending to be not like a progressive, but progressive on some things and then kind of weird on other things. And then just did a big flip when I think she realized, okay, I'm not going to be successful within the current Democratic Party. So instead, I can make myself this figure that the right will love, who pretends to be this former leftist or former Democrat who realizes how beautiful and perfect and wonderful the right wing is. And the important part, I think, anytime you hear someone bring up all of these either lies about what the current Democratic Party stands for, which there's some stuff that the Democratic Party does that's deeply aggravating, but in a general sense, or grabbing onto the smallest little elements of the progressive movement and obsessing over them and pretending like that's everything. The first thing you have to think about is the person in front of me. Are they making this criticism right after and then also right before making clear that the real and present threat that is posed right now to the most important part of everything related to politics, which is our democratic process, which is all coming from the right, that threat? If they're not doing that, if that's not how they're structuring, hey, here's some elements of the left that are super annoying and aggravating, and here's some dumb people. But remember, right now, we may lose our ability to even argue within the political process with those dumb people because we could lose our democracy because we have a movement that stands for a guy who attempted in multiple ways to stay in power when he lost, and a bunch of people running in races right now who are saying if they don't win, it was stolen from them without evidence, and attempts to get people into Secretary of State's positions who will just do everything possible to keep the Republican in power, even if they lose, and all these devastating things that, again, would break down our ability to even have these political battles on the democracy stage, because the democracy stage could be broken down so significantly. And so someone like her is actually an incredibly dangerous and dishonest actor because she is framing for people who really want to hear this, the conversation as one about some of these issues that may exist within the Democratic Party, but mostly characterizations of the current Democratic Party that aren't even accurate, or the progressive movement, and making that the focus of people who are moderate and are looking to this former Democrat for some advice, or Republicans who like the way that hits their ears. And so it really enrages me when I see people doing this who are just completely ignoring the important parts, because we can have policy disagreements. Let's do it. We can hate each other's politics. That doesn't matter. But you covering for a very dangerous movement at a very important moment right now in American history is something I can't get on board with. And then finally, I'll say the huge level of complaints that I'm seeing from people who feel outcasted whenever they change to being a different political ideology or do something like she's doing. I'm a little bit sick of it. Now, I don't think you just simply being a Republican should get you outcasted from democratic spaces and, big D Democratic. No. But if you are someone who has just wildly different views about important subjects, this isn't whether you're a, Dallas Cowboys or Houston Texans fan. This is important stuff for the future of our country and crucial aspects of our process being citizens here. It's perfectly fair for people not to like hanging with you as much. I don't know why it's, oh, I'm being canceled because I lost friends. Yeah, you guys clearly diverged a lot in your stances on important issues. And a lot of times friendships break up whenever that happens. It's not you being the most persecuted person ever. I have people who don't want to be friends with me because they're way more conservative than me. That's just a thing that happens. Maybe I would be friends with them. They don't. Okay. That's not me being persecuted as a progressive. That's just oftentimes people like to hang with people who are similar to them. Now, I think it's beautiful when people of different ideologies can be friends with one another. I have lots of friends who are very, very different politically than me, and lots of people in my life who are. That's awesome, but you can't pretend that you're persecuted just because you lose friends, because you got super opposed to many of the things that they feel are very important. And people don't like to hang out with people who disagree on crucial aspects of what they stand for.